Today, as hostages return home, a moment of true joy and relief that should feel victorious, the reality still feels far from it. In Gaza, Hamas parades through the streets in full military gear, unashamed, undefeated, still in power. In the north, Hezbollah terrorists roam freely along the border as if they own the land that the Lebanese army was supposed to clear them from. It doesn't feel like the war of the past, where the enemy was crushed and peace was restored. So, now everyone's wondering, is this the start of peace, the end of the war, or just a timeout before things blow up again? Moreover, never before has a war devastated our lands and communities as this one has. In the past, battles were fought on Israel's borders against invading armies on distant fronts. This time, the war reached deep inside our towns, our homes, leaving destruction and trauma unlike anything we have ever seen before. But before we dive into the complexities of the ceasefire and what the day after may hold for Israel and this region, please like and subscribe and help us share the truth to the world. So the big question on everyone's mind is this: where are we all going? The recent ceasefire has paused 15 months of war, but what lies ahead? Hamas is still standing, and who will govern Gaza? Hostage release videos make it clear. Hamas still holds control, and the future remains dangerously uncertain. On a positive note, President Donald Trump has declared his unwavering support for Israel. He approved military aid to the IDF that was previously withheld and is deporting pro-Hamas students from American universities, reinforcing his no-tolerance stance on extremism. Trump has also put forward a bold proposal that neighboring Arab nations take in Gaza's populations. Over the years, Israel took in Jewish refugees from Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, and Yemen because we are one people. Meanwhile, Arab nations with vast resources have refused to integrate Palestinians, using them as political pawns. Now, for the first time, this conversation is on the table. The ceasefire in the north remains unstable, with Hezbollah still in the border and the deal to retreat past the Litani River failing to materialize. To add to all the complexities, Israel faces enormous challenges. Entire towns are in ruins, forests have burned, and farmland is devastated. Hundreds of thousands of trees have been lost to rockets from Hamas, Hezbollah, and the other Iranian proxies, a direct attack not just on Israel's people, but on the land of Israel itself. Once thriving cities in the south and in the north are now ghost towns, forests reduced to ash. I'm here in the Ben Shemen forest, not far from Jerusalem. This is a place deeply rooted in Israel's history. Biblically, this land was known for its olive groves, as Shemen means oil in Hebrew. It was one of the first major reforestation projects of the modern state, with millions of trees planted to revive this land. I'm meeting Mati Shoshani to discuss how we can rebuild Israel's lands with your help, because no matter how dark the path may seem, we, as a people, have always found our way through the wilderness and back into the light with God's help.
How are you?
I'm meeting Rabbi Gidon Shlush from the Jewish National Fund to discuss Israel's eternal commitment to this land, its people, its history, and the beautiful forests that have been nurtured for generations.
So what are we planting? We can choose? Each one can choose one?
The trees that we've got are the cypress, which is this one, the pine, the pistacia, and the carob.
I have a thought here, though. I want to plant something that's indigenous to this region. So Elah, which is a beautiful indigenous tree, that's going to be mine.
Wait, this is yours?
This is mine.
This is beautiful?
I think, since we're talking about the restoration of the region, we start with something that looks sad. We'll come back in a couple years. It'll be an impressive tree.
Okay, I start with the pine tree, right?
I chose a tree that's a little scarce on the top.
Yeah, then you feel connection.
I feel a connection.
Okay, let's take it. Where are we planting this? Up here?
From the first trees planted by the pioneers to the vast green landscapes we see today, Israel's reforestation is not just about nature. It's about revival, resilience, and a deep-rooted connection to this land. So, Rabbi Shlush, this is something we've done, Yair and I think of every kid that's grown up in Israel, almost every year of our life. I did it every year when I was a kid in school, especially when you're younger. Then once I had kids, we started doing it with them. It isn't just because of the war, but the idea of restoring the land is something we've grown up in and as in embedded in us. And I always take pleasure in this idea of like, look, this is the barren hillside. I'm going to come back in 5 years, and one of the trees here is something that I planted.
And I think it's also very special during the Tu B'Shvat time. Maybe you can explain to our viewers what Tu B'Shvat is all about.
This is a holiday where Jews all over the world, but especially in the land of Israel, celebrate the planting of life in Israel. That's what we're doing. We're planting life. Tu B'Shvat is a symbolism of rebirth. Like you were showing me that branch, there was nothing on it. We're coming off the winter now, but we know we're going to plant now, and the spring, summer is going to come, and we're going to see it blossom. And the same thing, we think about the state of Israel, and we think what we've been through over the past year plus. And please God, it's been very difficult, but we're optimistic and we're filled with hope, and we believe with people around the world joining Karen Kamet Israel, the Jewish National Fund, we are going to make this place bloom again.
Let's go back 100 and something years, say late 1800s, end of the 19th century. The Zionist movement was a life-bringing force for this region. This land was barren. This land was abandoned. It was like the sick child of this region. And you look at it today from a satellite image, and it is an island of green in the middle of desert. Even the hills we're standing on, which in biblical times were green, by the way, they saw eons, I mean, we're talking thousands of years of destruction from conquerors, are now green again.
One of the most famous stories of Tu B'Shvat is the story of Choni HaMa'ago. This sage, we're going back 2,000 years. He's walking one day, and he sees an old man planting in the forest. And he said, "What are you planting?" He said, "It's a carob tree." He said, "Carob tree? When will it bloom?" He said, "In 70 years." And he's an old man. So he said, "Are you going to be alive to enjoy from these carobs?" And he said, "Listen, just as I came here and I found carobs to enjoy, I'm planting for the next generation." So I think that's what we're doing as well. You know, the early Zionists, as you spoke about in the late 1800s, they planted for us. And please God, we're planting for our children and grandchildren and future generations.
I think that especially now, after more than 15 months of fighting in the north with, 57,000 acres of forests that were burned because of Hezbollah rockets and Hamas rockets. It's our way to counter this hatred and this spirit of death and destruction by planting something that we will only see the results and the fruits of in 20 years, 30 years. Meaning that we believe that we're going to be here in a generation, 2 generations, 1,000 years from now.
Oh, we know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we know.
So that's why we're doing this. Okay, so this is the perfect time, Mati, to plant the trees. Mati digging, take 1. Stop.
Okay. How am I doing, Yair? I'm already getting tired.
I'll do this guy.
Not too close to mine. Put your hips into it, Yair.
It's not as easy as it looks, guys.
As you can tell, everyone, the weather's changed. It's taken Yair a while to dig his hole.
It's not my fault. I picked a rocky area compared to Mati.
I'm going to put my tree. They call this a...
This is Elah. I named my first daughter on this
tree.
This
is the biblical tree of Elah.
Yeah.
It is indigenous to this region. There are plenty of them in the mountains around us. Yeah, you want to help me fill the hole with soil? As they say in Russia, Putin.
Mati, something I learned just now is that all the trees in Israel are planted by hands, by people coming like us, digging and planting it into the soil. More than 200 million trees that were planted in Israel since 1948.
How many of them did you plant, Yair?
I think about 5, maybe.
Now Yair's lesser whole?
We'll see in 10 years which tree is taller. Actually, Mati, this is pretty cool, you know, as part of this crazy year and a half that we're in, you know, fighting, going to reserve duty, to take a pause and just plant something for the future. Feels good, you know?
I think this is a good time for a call to action. Rabbi, come in frame with us, please. I want to read out in what it says on your on your fleece jacket over here. It says Keren Kayemet L'Israel, the Kakal JNF. We're doing a project together with Kakal. After 15 months of war and our enemies intentionally burning down our country, it's time to restore and rebuild and show everyone that the life force of this nation and the lovers of this nation far outweighs all our enemies.
So if you want to help us and plant a tree in Israel and help us share the truth of what's happening in this land, go to www.tbn.org/rebuildisrael. You can have a piece of Israel that was planted here because of your donation.
So appreciative to all those who are supporting us outside the land of Israel. You're planting hope, and you're planting the future of the Jewish people in the homeland.
One thing that I caught in all this story is that the people of Israel came back to Israel from all over the world after 2,000 years. You know, this is a biblical scale miracle. It's ungraspable because people think that, okay, God performed miracles in the Bible times, you know, opening the sea, the Exodus from Egypt. My point here is that God is performing miracles, biblical scale miracles today in modern time Israel. And I think that it's an opportunity for you, millions of Bible-believing Christians around the world, to partner with God in performing this miracle in the state of Israel by rebuilding this land after a year and a half of war and destruction. So I believe that God will do it, you know, with our help or without our help, but we always want to be on God's side in the story. Well, we don't need to water the plants anymore.
No. Just a short while ago, I was complaining that we didn't get any rain this winter. So here we are, and we got to take part in something that I find to be unique.
Yeah.
In the restoration, the rebuilding of this land, especially after the war, especially when our enemies are trying to ruin the land, the people, the language, the story. Here we are, rebuilding this land, replanting the trees.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing. And what I see that is the coolest thing about this is it's a fulfillment of biblical prophecy.
Absolutely.
And you see it over and over again. Just the Spirit of God is to build. I mean, anything that God is involved in has to grow, has to bear fruit,
yes,
and has to be better. And if you feel like you're in a challenging position in your life and need encouragement, just take a look at Israel. We have been fighting 7 different fronts for the past year and a half against multiple enemies, and we are still here, Mati. We're still here, still surviving, still planting trees.
Yeah.
Imagine that. And that's not because we are, you know, great or anything. It's only because God is faithful to the people of Israel, and because of it, He's going to be faithful to every one of us in our personal lives. So, this is a very different, you know, shooting day for me. Planting some trees instead of talking about, you know, the fronts and all the wars and the new threats to Israel.
Well, my hope is that many of our upcoming segments are going to be ones of restoration and rebuilding.
Yeah.
And we can take a beeline from doom and gloom for a while.
Yeah, listen, definitely. I really hope to do some videos on archaeological sites, places where Jesus visited, and to see all of you here in the land of Israel in person with us.
Yeah. And I'll add that we have all the cause in the world to feel hopeful. This land has been under attack in a way that it hasn't seen before. Mm-hmm. And we've persevered, we've come out of it with the upper hand. We're the up-and-coming power in this region. The U.S. is by our side. There's an international community of people like our viewers at home that pray and care for what's happening here. And here we are in the midst of this, planting new trees in this land.
No, I'm excited for the next year, for the next season, Mati.
I am too.
And before our director will kill us, guys, if you haven't subscribed yet, please click that subscribe button, press this little bell, and share these videos on YouTube with all your friends and your family so that they will know what's happening in Israel, in this region, and most importantly, that they will pray for the situation. This tree that we've just planted is more than just a sapling in the soil. It's a symbol of our unwavering commitment to Israel's growth, its future, and sharing God's love with its people. Like every seed, it carries potential, the promise of new life, of roots that run deep, and of branches that will one day stand tall, providing shade for the generations to come. Our enemies seek destruction, but we plant. They choose death, but we choose life. This is who we are, builders, dreamers, and caretakers of this land that God gave us. And just as the tree will grow, so will we, stronger, deeper, and always here to stay. So we invite you to join us in a vision and in restoring Israel's lands. Click the link below, www.tbn.org/rebuildisrael, and share God's love with the people and land of Israel.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.